You something to throw. Do you remember some of the council meetings when we first started with the Zoom? The people that were coming on with the comments and stuff they were
They
making,
hated people like me.
they're bad. Remember one meeting? Jesus.
Oh, boy.
This meeting is now called to order. Today you have joined the Committee on Urban Redevelopment, Renewal, and Planning. This is April the 14th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairwoman Harris,
Present.
Vice Chairman Narducci,
Here.
Councilman Correa,
Present.
Councilwoman Castillo. Absent. Councilman Espinel,
Present.
we have a forum.
I would like to also welcome Councilman Vargas. Thank you, welcome. Right now, we're going to turn this over to our Emily Freeman to talk a little about the process. And maybe you have some documents.
Madam Chair, did you want to read the
Into
item into the record?
Please.
Communication from His Honor the Mayor dated April 1st, 2022, submitting the Community Development Block Grant Budget for Program Year 2022-2023.
Thank you. So right here, we have 6 pages. We would like to enter this into the records as an exhibit. May I have a? Thank you.
Second.
It has been, motion have been made by Councilman Correa, second by Councilman Espinal. Madam Clerk, what is this exhibit?
Exhibit 1.
Exhibit 1. Now, at this time, I would
All
like,
in favor?
all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now I would like to turn it over to our Emily Freeman from the Planning Department.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Friedman, Director of the Division of Housing and Community Development within the Department of Planning and Development. Pleased to join you this evening on behalf of the proposed 2022-2023 CDBG budget and on behalf of Mayor. This budget in front of you will serve as the 3rd year of investment under our 2020 to 2024 5-year consolidated plan. The 5-year plan for investment is informed, as you may recall, by community engagement, detailed market and needs analyses, and reviewing access and barriers to fair housing. After establishing those community needs through this public process, we are charged by HUD with the responsibility to select high-quality services meeting those priority community needs for the best price. To develop this proposed budget, we released an RFP, a notice of funding availability, in February, and we received well over 100 worthwhile proposals. The colored spreadsheet you'll see in front of you is the full listing of applications that we received by the deadline. Of course, given these worthwhile proposals, we have an incredibly difficult job in front of us of making decisions due to the tremendous level of ask and the limited availability of funding. Making our job even harder this year, the omnibus federal spending bill that was passed in March incorporated a last-minute surprise cut to the CDBG program of 5%. It's going to be a few more weeks before we receive our final allocation numbers, so we need to operate under both an assumed budget and a reduced budget. In total, we received $13.7 million in CDBG requests and have less than $4 million to distribute. And of course, there are also internal city needs, such as parks, playgrounds, and schools to consider. The initiatives that the mayor and staff have identified for funding include provision of basic urgent needs, such as food and childcare, homelessness prevention, case management, and harm reduction, youth education and after-school programs, job training and skills development, the creation and preservation of affordable housing, entrepreneurship and small business supports, and critical improvements to facilities serving the basic needs of a variety of low-income populations. So as we craft this budget, there are certain considerations to be made. We continue to need to place an emphasis on clearly defined and shovel-ready projects that are ready to proceed. There needs to be a direct line between the CDBG investment and eligible clients being served. That means we need to be funding those activities that provide direct service to low-income clients. And if we're improving facilities or spaces, those facilities or spaces need to provide direct service and be directly used by eligible clients. So that means that we aren't able to fund things like nonprofit capacity building, administrative offices, or the like. And then, of course, under the CDBG program, we have to meet what's called an actual objective, which in most cases is benefit to low and moderate income persons, and it needs to be an eligible activity enumerated under the federal regulations. So our goal, as you may recall, is to work collaboratively to get a budget into final form, and then we need to pass that budget through the city council twice. That budget is then incorporated into a final annual action plan, which is a federally prescribed submission format, and we have to put that out for final 30-day public comment. Once we submit that budget to HUD, they have 45 days to review and approve, and the goal is to have all of these approvals in place by July 1st to enable us to start the program year in alignment with the normal fiscal year. So in front of you all, you should have a copy of the draft proposed budget. On the first page, it identifies the funding available to us under the assumed funding available to us under the variety of federal programs that we received in federal HUD. So this is again the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships Program, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, or the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. Again, we have not yet received our final allocations from HUD, so these are assumed numbers, knowing the cuts that were made in the final spending bill.
So it could go either way, up or down.
It could. I believe the cut was 4.6%. We assumed a conservative 5% cut. Obviously, there's some things in flux with our formula. The final spending bill goes to the Office of Management Budget, who then run it through the entitlement formula. So if there's any changes in the factors that compose that formula, we could get more or less money. And then if there's additional grantees that are added to as entitlements, then that also impacts our funding. So it's still a little bit up in the air. We have dealt with this in past budget cycles by building in, if we don't have by the time we pass this budget out of committee, final allocation, we build in a contingency provision that allows us to do a commensurate increase or decrease across all line items. And that helps us to ensure that we don't have to then go back through a budget process to make those adjustments. Hopefully, based on past timing, we should know within a couple of weeks what our final figures are. And if we need to, we will build in that contingency provision for some past. So I'll certainly keep everyone updated. So with the 5% anticipated cut, that lands us with an allocation of about $5.15 million. We also have a percentage of funds that we can reprogram from prior years, which this is a recapture balance from projects that failed to move forward or projects that came in under budget. This is essentially the change in the calculation. Councilman, do you have a question?
No, I did.
Okay. And what's important to note is that the reprogramming dollars allow us to, those are additional funds that we can put back out to support applications or new projects. However, it does not increase or impact our caps for administration or public service. So it's important to keep in mind. There are certain fixed expenses to operate the program, the administration and delivery costs to ensure that we properly administer, monitor, oversee, and deliver these programs in accordance with federal regulations. And then, as you may recall, we have what's referred to as our public service cap. There's a limit under the federal regulations to how much grantees can expend on public services. Both our community centers and public services fall under this cap. So when you see CDBG public community centers and CDBG public services, the sum of those two categories equals our public service cap. We also have the economic development category, which is technical assistance programs and investments that are designed to serve low and moderate micro enterprises or small businesses with the goal of job creation or retention. Our public facilities allocation, which are nonprofit or city-owned facilities that are open and available to the public. They need to serve low and moderate income clients or be open to a low and moderate income neighborhood on a drop-in basis. So our libraries, our public libraries, our playgrounds, our homeless shelters, our community centers, our facilities serving the disabled, our rec centers, all fall under that public facility category. And then finally, you will see within the budget a placeholder for neighborhood investment strategies, AKA the ward allocations. These are level funded over prior year. And these are funds made available to eligible brick and mortar projects within each ward and neighborhood. Prior to the passage of this budget from this committee, the council members for each ward need to identify projects and incorporate into the final ordinance. Kyle Delgado is serving as, to my awareness, is serving as the point person to help you identify projects if you have not already. And then, of course, myself and the department directors are happy to offer any suggestions if needed. Again, the goal is to have this budget be able to be incorporated into final ordinance format prior to passage out of this committee. And of course, we must identify all projects in order for HUD to approve our action plan. Again, this is at this point the draft budget that's before you. My understanding is there's often questions or you'd like to hear from applicants and that you may potentially be inviting presenters in future meetings. I look forward to those presentations and I look forward to working with all to pass this out.
Thank you, Emily. Is there any questions from our members?
So I'm just basically looking at this right now. Under request, that is what the applicants are requesting for this year.
Correct.
And the prior year allocation is in there. Can you just refresh my mind? What did the CD? What is?
So I did note in the prior year, you may recall we had COVID, a boost to our CDBG funding through the CARES Act. So this was specific COVID response CDBG. And so there were some applicants who received a bump up last year through that supplemental budget for COVID specific activities. So I did note if we funded them in a prior year through either part of CDBG.
Thank you.
I'd like to also acknowledge our legal city solicitor's department, Mario Montan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. That was an error, moving quickly. We are ready to start to interview people that, applicants that are coming forth, that if anybody have anyone specifically, especially Councilman Correa and Councilman Espinal, that you would like to see and speak to about anything, please see our city clerk.
Right, quick question on that, Madam Chair. Are we inviting people that have already been awarded from this list? Or are we intended to invite people that may not have made it?
We're actually working from the mayor's budget.
From the mayor's budget,
Yeah, which is now what?
what we have here.
Our budget.
Okay,
We, if I may,
go ahead. Councilman.
what, a lot of times, if it's somebody that's already getting funding and you're not sure what the organization is about, then generally we could call them in. Me personally if I look and I see an organization that's being funded and the organization and it's already being funded, then to save quality time, because we are on a tight schedule, you try not to rename it, I'm trying to say. Does that answer? Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are organizations that have for years
And if there's,
done great work in the community that are well known that very reputable, and you know exactly where those dollars go and how they're being used and spent.
And Madam Chair, if I may, please. I always find it easier if there's an organization that's not on here. That before they're asked to come in, that you give them a holler
Absolutely.
and find out why they're not here,
Right.
because usually there's a very good answer.
That's,
I know some of our food pantries were removed only because they're getting 3 years of funding through the ARPA funds. So I was able to help us with our budget, with the CDBG budget, you know. And a lot of the other organizations might be doing the same thing, like I found out that First Works, when I talked to Emily, First Works, they called them already. And I asked Emily tonight before we came in, and she said that they're getting funding through the PVD best funding. So then they're already getting that, so.
Thank you.
so I
Thank you,
think,
Madam Chair.
you're welcome. For the committee for, Councilman Vargas.
Thank you, Chairman. I got a concern of, like, would like to be clarified, like, what should we do? Like, public service community center and public service, what are the differences in those two?
Sure. So from the HUD regulations, no difference. Historically, we have differentiated in our budget process between our neighborhood community centers and public services. Really a sort of a policy decision that we want to ensure and have made a commitment that those community centers continue to be funded at a robust level. So those are often repeat applicants and sort of are considered first, and then we plug in additional services under our public service cap as we meeting those other critical needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As you can see, this is the first time this is being released to the public. And so we expect our colleagues to have, go through this. We don't expect you to have, just be able to do it tonight, because this is the first time you're looking at it. Please speak to Cal Delgado. Cal is the mediator between us to make sure we don't have a rolling form. We don't know exactly when that happens. So we want to make sure that we utilize the skills that he brought to the table last year. And another thing too, please get your projects identified for him as well. And your allocations, where you're going to put them. Cal will be handling all of that. And I think that's basically it.
Can I just ask a couple of questions?
Council correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emily, some of these, just looking at it quick, excuse me, some of them like looking internal requests from the city of Providence and South Philly, repair playgrounds and whatnot. Can those funds come out of the offer funds? We're sitting on millions in offer funds. And some of these requests that are internal come be transferred to.
So the ARPA dollars have their own set of regulations promulgated through the Treasury. And so it really does need to be COVID related, pandemic recovery related. And so something like, replacing a playground wouldn't necessarily be eligible under ARPA. Certainly what we do look at is with our capital improvement plan, we're looking at bonding dollars and other resources available through the city. We do try to take into account where else they could be funded in the city budget or through bonding. But there really isn't an off ramp for some of those things, the normal sort of maintenance or improvements.
More for COVID.
It's more for COVID and pandemic. We actually did not get any rehab requests for health centers, but I think that something like that, modification of a health center would be eligible under ARPA. It was under the CARES Act.
Mr.
Can I just do a follow-up?
Councilman correct.
So I understand it. So, all right. How about just like a quick thing, looking at this just quickly with under economic development, 25 Bow Street. So if they were, so the administration's requested to give like $2 million, over $2 million. And they're using, in here, it says that it's the hardest hit zip code by code. So would that qualify as
So what is it?
So just to be clear, the second column from the right is not, nowhere on the spreadsheet is the mayor's recommended amount included.
That's what they're asking.
It's what they're asking.
That's what they're requesting.
Yes, I did, my understanding is there is a racial equity bucket under ARPA, and so potentially something like that could be ARPA. Unfortunately, 2.5 million, that's more than half of our
Yeah.
pot, and so that was an ask that, was just outsized for the funding.
And I see that it's 0 in there, so.
Zero is the prior year funding, so this is a new applicant, this is actually a brand new project, new organization.
And I know that the building falls, how it's neighborhood, I do things like college. More on the ground, it's an accident.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Let the record show that we have our chairman, Ryan, here today with us.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions from the committee? Again, we will work through Kyle to make sure that not only our allocations, but if there's something that you feel really passionate about that you need to bring back to the committee, we would want to know, prior to Kyle, so we can make sure that we are working with Emily to try to figure it out. Is there any more?
So, Madam Chair, you want us to do our request that we'd like to see somebody come in and go through Kyle, or? can we make
That
a
also you can do
recommendation
between our clerk and Kyle, if you want to see somebody come in.
now? So can I make a recommendation to have the famous houses a hand up program?
Oh,
Come
yeah.
in,
Famous house, a
famous
hand up.
a hand
Well, you
up.
had already said that anyway.
Yeah. I didn't say they come in, I just in love with them. But anyways,
Oh, that's fabulous.
they're fabulous. Yeah, we have never met with them before. So, yeah, I think this is good.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
all right.
Yep.
Is there any more business before this body?
Motion to continue this matter.
I'll make the motion to continue this matter.
Second.
So we have a motion to continue, second by, motion from, Vice Chairman Naducci, second by Councilman Espinal and Councilman Correa. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, then at this moment, if there's no other business, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
There's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
It's been a second. All in favor?
Aye.
When is our next meeting?
Our next meeting I have scheduled for Wednesday, the 20th at 5 o'clock.
that's pretty quick.
All right, guys, come in and be ready to work. We're gonna get these people money out into the community.
Yes,
Madam Clerk,
yes,
are you going to create a folder for us?
absolutely. I'll have all your folders ready for the next meeting.
So once it's done,
I can leave
Wash.
this one here.
Yeah, you can leave that there.
So you don't write on your stuff
That's
all
next.
I
over?
had one at home already.